It is. There's a big change between the first record and the second album. I felt when I finished my first album that I wanted to write something that was heavier, that was more emotional, that was more live feeling, that had more contrast. So I was starting to make that record towards the end of 2007 and the start of 2008. And then I finished the album more recently.
And you're a singer where it's always worth listening to the words because you've got a lot of literary... Well, you were an English graduate from Leeds, which is your hometown as well. So in terms of the literary influences, not simply the musical ones, where do you go? What really matters to you?
I think it's really important that music is self-expression, so I think you ought to be using your own voice rather than anyone else's. And I find when I'm writing lyrics that you know, the words are important, but also you know, the music really informs the words and helps to add extra meaning to them. But
so what comes first?
When I'm writing, I tend to play music and then I just kind of sing out what's in my head. So I find that it's almost like, you know, a stream of consciousness. I think you find yourself saying things that you didn't even know that you felt, and then, you know, listen back to things I've done and think, oh, I can't believe that those thoughts were in there.
Yes. And you started way back in a church choir, and you've come through, I don't think you've done madrigals, but you've done almost every other kind of musical expression that I can think of, including indie rock and up to soul and jazz. I just wonder, is this a continuing journey? Do you think the next album is going to feel very different again from this one, is it?
I think it's really important to be constantly developing and changing, and I really felt with this album, you know, I wanted to make something different. I didn't want to find myself being in a box or being labelled, so I really like on the record how there is influences from kind of guitar music and indie music, but also jazz and soul, and you know, they have their sort of crossover point in the blues, you know, as being the root of both those styles. So I feel really on this record that it pulls together both these different, seemingly different sides of my musical interest and brings it all together in one whole.
And when you were, I don't know, 16 or so, who did you want to be? Did you have a dream, an ideal kind of singer that you wanted to be?
I think when I was 16, you know, I found like I wanted to be myself, you know. There's this movement happening in music of sort of grunge and indie, and music was becoming much more deconstructed from being, you know, Michael Jackson and Quincy Jones, huge arrangements, strings and, you know, 10 producers, to suddenly being Kurt Cobain sat with an acoustic guitar and 2 other performers and people, you know, scratching songs in notebooks. And I suddenly felt, oh, you know, there is room for me, that music is about self-expression, that you don't have to make something that's really perfect and glossy and huge. We can make something that's kind of taken apart and really honest.
Well, this new album, The Sea, has already made a huge splash, if I can put it that way. And we're going to be hearing something from you later on at the end of the programme. But for now, thank you very much indeed, Corinne, for coming in.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, not so long ago, the Conservatives were rampant in the opinion polls.